The next section is verses 56 to 66. And there Krishna will explain the more confidential knowledge, Paramatma realization, and the most confidential knowledge, the Bhagavad realization. So, he has explained, Krishna here, he has explained, yeah, we have 56, 56. Oh, just a moment, I have to have the right slide here. Yeah, that's it. Now I can share it with you. Okay. We go from the beginning. So these are verses 56 to 66. So at the end of the previous section, Krishna says, Bhakti amama vijanti yavyasas mitotva. Only by devotional service can one be understood. So Krishna is stressed at the end of the previous section the importance of devotional service. But now Krishna will explain how to overcome all obstacles to come to that point of working in devotional service, which means working under Krishna's protection. And then Krishna will give us the more confidential knowledge of the super soul, Paramatma realization, and then the most confidential knowledge of surrendering to him, become his devotee, and get Bhagavan realization. So now, text. This is this section. We will start with reading 56. 56. There we go. Sarvakarmanapi sada govam matfya pasvayam matprashadat avapnoti shasvatam padamapyayam. Krishna says, though engaged in all kinds of activities, a pure devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. That Srila Prabhupada writes, yes, working under Krishna's protection. So to be free from our material contamination, we must work under the direction of Krishna or the spiritual master who is his representative. So a pure devotee has no time to lose. He uses 24 hours a day to serve the Lord. And finally, he attains the spiritual world, Krishna Loka. But now, what does it mean working under the protection of Krishna? Krishna gives a bit more details in 57, and 57 has an important as a verse, especially the purport, Srila Prabhupada, that explains us how we should act in Krishna consciousness. 57. Cetasha Sarvakarmani Mai Sanyasya Matpara Bodhi Yogam Apashrita Machita Satatam Bhava. In all activities, just depend on me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Yeah. In the previous verse, Krishna said, you work under my protection and you are completely, if you are completely absorbed in me, working for me, you are in my highest abode. But now, how to do that practically is explained in the purport of this verse 57 here. I read the verse again. In all activities depend on me, work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be conscious of me. Now, this purport is very important. So Krishna starts to explain, if we perform devotional service, we are not the controller of the world. No, we are just a servant. And we work fully under the direction of the Lord. Of course, in practice, we act on behalf of the spiritual master. Then we remain unaffected by profit and loss. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives a very important instruction here. How should one act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as under the guidance of the representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. Two things, under the direction of the book and under the guidance of a spiritual master, both must be there at the same time, not disconnected, not just by the book. You need the guidance of the spiritual master. The spiritual master has realization and guides us with that realization. So then the result will be the same. And then Mat Paraha, Srila Prabhupada writes, it means one should be completely dedicated to Krishna, no other goal in life. One should think, and that's the internal mood you have to develop. I've been appointed to discharge this particular duty of Krishna. The one should note that after doing something whimsically, he should not offer the results to Krishna. Whimsically. Be careful. We are dealing with Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said. So one should act according to the order of Krishna. This is very important. That order comes to the disciplic succession down, to the Guru Parampara. Therefore, we had heard already in 241, Vyavsat Mikabudi Ekanakoranamana, where Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, one should take the order of the spiritual master as one's goal in life. So yes, if one follows Krishna's direction under the order of spiritual master, one will get the perfection in life, which is Krishna consciousness. But then in the next verse, in the next verse, Krishna gives two choices. If you do this, you get that result. And if you do that, you get another result. So that's not the first time Krishna does that. We have also got this in verses in the there are different places where Krishna does that, but I'm going back to the third chapter, and there you have verses, yes. The verse 3:30. Yeah. So Krishna says this in 31. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive activities. But then in the next verse says, but those who out of envy disregard these teachings, do not follow them regularly, are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, were fooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. So if you do this, one result, do that, another result. And here we see the same in verse 58. Machita sarvadurgani matpashad trishasyasat itvamankam nasushas vinakshati. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act to false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. You will be lost. So that's our choice, that we can make our choice. So the foolish cannot understand this great freedom from all anxiety, Srila Prabhupada writes. Because when one becomes Krishna consciousness, one gets contact with Krishna in the heart and feels always Krishna's presence, and he feels Krishna becomes his best friend. And it's factually our only friend, real friend. All the so-called friends in this world, soon they are gone. Next life, other friends. Krishna is our real friend. So we must become Krishna's intimate friend. And Krishna gives himself to his friend who is so devotedly engaged 24 hours a day to please the Lord. Therefore, no one should be carried away by the false ego of the body concept of life. One should not falsely think himself independent of the laws of material nature and free to act. But as soon as he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is liberated from the material perplexities. Otherwise, if we are not Krishna conscious, then we are lost in the whirlpool of material entanglement and birth and death. And in that situation, so bewildered, we don't know what to do, what not to do. But if we act in Krishna consciousness, everything is directed by Krishna. Everything is clear and confirmed by the spiritual master. But if we don't do that, Krishna says in 59, Yat ahankaram asritya, taking shelter of false ego. Nayotsa itimanyase. Mityasa vyafasaya ste pragatistvam niyokshati. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed by your nature. You will have to be engaged in warfare. Actually, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was thinking himself that he was the master of his action and that he was going to direct his own good and bad results of his work. And he forgot that the Lord was just near to him, and he instructed him to fight. So that's our forgetfulness of the conditioned soul. We have all that forgetfulness. But if we simply act in Krishna consciousness, we will get the perfection of life. At the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, no one should neglect the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or the order of the spiritual master with representative of God. One should act unhesitatingly and to execute the order of the Personality of Godhead. And then Krishna says to Arjuna that in 60. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same. If one does not want to work under the direction of Krishna, then it will be directed by the modes of nature. That's simple. But if we voluntarily to agree to Krishna's instructions, our life becomes glorious. So these verses here are leading us up to, or explaining how to work under Krishna's protection. And what are the results if we are not working under Krishna's protection? And then, if we are working under Krishna's protection, we become Krishna conscious. And the first thing what will happen in Krishna consciousness is if we become purified, then we see the presence of Krishna in the heart. And that's the Paramatma realization. And Krishna speaks about this Paramatma realization in text 61. Ishvara sarva bhutani amrita sayona tishtati pramayam sarva bhutani yantra udani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart to Arjuna and is directing the wanderings of the living entities who are seated on a machine made of material energy. So, of course, we know that after we leave the body, we forget about our previous lives and all the past deeds that we done. But Krishna, the Super Soul, is a witness in our heart. Therefore, in next life, Krishna reminds us of our past activities and the desires we had in previous lives. They pop up again in our lives. And we get confronted with the reactions of our previous lives. And according to the reactions, we are placed in a certain body. All the Super Soul is doing that, and he's sitting in the heart. He is controlling all of this. So we are not independent. The Super Soul engages us again in this life, in the activities of our past desires. Yes, we are always under control of the Super Soul. Therefore, the best thing to do is to surrender to one who controls everything. That's our duty. And that surrender, that duty, is explained in the next verse, 62. Tameva sharanam gacha sarvabhavena bharata tat prashadat param shantim stanam prapshasi saspatam. The sign of Bharat, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will obtain the transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. So here Krishna it suggests already that returning to the eternal abode when we attain Bhagavan realization. But this process here of surrender, one gets transcendental peace, that means freedom from all miseries. And at the end, we reach the supreme abode. But now Krishna has explained all this, and he will tell Arjuna, what's your decision? What do you want to do? Want you surrender or not? Iti te jnanamakyatam guyat ramaya vimshishita shishenya yatashansi tatha gu. I've explained to you this knowledge, still more confidential. Deliberate on this and do what you wish to do. That. So the devotee said to me, that instruction of Krishna I like the most. Do what you wish to do. I follow that always. Of course, we have to be careful that we have to follow. Our decisions should be, we should follow Krishna's instructions. But it gives us the freedom. As you like, you may act, Krishna says. It's up to you. You have the knowledge now. I will not interfere with your independence. But I've given you good advice, Arjun. You just surrender to me that the super soul is seated in your heart, that you surrender to the super soul in your heart and follow his direction, then you will have the right discrimination. You should agree to act according to the order of the super soul. So before surrendering, we are free to act and deliberate. Do I want to do it or not? But so yes, and then do we accept the instructions of Krishna? These instructions comes to the spiritual master, representative of Krishna. So Krishna gives freedom, but Krishna is very compassionate to Arjuna. He says in the next verse, Sarva goyatamam boya shiname paranam vacha isto sime tritam iti tatavakshami te hitam. Because you are my very dear friend, I'm speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this for me. This is for your benefit. So Krishna says, I'm going to give you now the most confidential instruction, the highest, the Bhagavan realization. He repeats this instruction from the 9th chapter, Man Manabhav Mad Bhaksha. Just always think of me and become my devotee. The same instruction is repeated. It is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. That's here. Manmanabhav madbhakto machimam namaskar mamavesha satyam pe pratijane priyosim. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage to me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you are my very dear friend. So that's the essence of all the instructions. It's the most confidential part. One should become a pure devotee of Krishna, and always think of him. So we should organize our life, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purpose, so that we cannot do anything than 24 hours think of Krishna, serve Krishna, connect all our activities in the day with Krishna. Arrange our life as such that we cannot do anything else than 24 hours a day think of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purpose, everyone who follows the path of Arjuna becomes a dear friend to Krishna and obtains the same perfection as Arjuna. So one should fix his mind on this original form of Krishna. One should not even divert his attention to other forms, like Vishnu, Narayan, Ram, Bhagavan. No, fix your mind on the original form of Krishna. Arjuna the concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada writes at the end, constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge. And this is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most friend. So this confidential knowledge starts here in verse 65, but its instructions of what is devotee should do goes to verse 69. It's one unit, these instructions. That's the essence. That's what Krishna wants us to do. Think of me, worship me, become my devotee, offer obeisance to me, surrender unto me, and explain this knowledge to those who are receptive to it, and preach. And there's no one more dear than the preacher. So that is one unit, what we should do. That's our plan. That's the purpose of ISKCON. That's the purpose of our life, of becoming a devotee. That should be understood. Now, text 65. That 66, I mean, that of course, Srila Prabhupada, we will see in the next verse, verse 66, Sarvadam Pratyamam Kamsam Vajam Tvam Sarvabhyam Shishyamacha. Abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me, I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear this. So, Krishna is here summarizing the Bhagavad Gita. And he said, you should give up all the process that I explained before, just surrender unto me. And you will be freed from all sinful reactions. I will protect you. So that's even if one is not free from sinful reactions, by the process of surrender, one becomes freed. So one may perform a particular occupational duty according to his position in the social order, but by executing this duty, if one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, it's all for nothing. The point is to come, one must come to Krishna consciousness. So we must be convinced Krishna will protect me from all difficulties. We should not be over concerned how to keep body and soul together. But we should consider Krishna only the basis for progress in life. That if we engage seriously in devotional service, we become free from the contamination. So, Srila Prabhupada concludes in the purpose, one should become attracted to the beautiful form of Krishna. That one who is attracted to Krishna is the most perfect transcendentalist. At the end, the particular words, Masucha, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry, are very significant. One may be perplexed as to how can one give up all kinds of religious forms and simply unto Krishna. But such worry is useless. So Srila Prabhupada often quoted the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yaredekha tarekha Krishna upadas. Whenever you meet, enlighten him about Krishna. What's the meaning of this Krishna upadas? One must explain it. The meaning is one should explain Bhagavad Gita to the people. And Prabhupada said, most essential, you should explain these verses 65 or 66. This is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So if someone asks you what is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, you quote these two verses. Therefore, they are key memorization verses. But factually, the Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of Krishna, of the signs of Krishna. It ends with surrender, and that is where the Bhagavatam starts. One must surrender first. That's Srila Prabhupada shows that connection. Between verse 66, you surrender, that there it is said, you give up all religiosity and surrender unto him. And the second verse of the Bhagavatam, 112, says that this Bhagavatam is explaining the real religion, which is complete, which is distinct from materially motivated religion, cheating religion, that all out. So that's where the Bhagavatam begins. That so Vyasa states all cheating religions should be given up. Although only the absolute truth should be accepted. So we have heard here about the super soul realization. We have the meaning of the verse, surrender unto me. That is all also, 59, Krishna says, do what you wish to do. Also for us is important, what's our decision? That we see Krishna's kindness is willing to give us protection. That, but irrespective of free will, but concentrating our mind should be the purpose of our life. Concentrating the mind on Krishna. That's our Mudra mission. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada's Mudra mission, to engage everyone in Krishna consciousness. So this is the second section that I want to show first you the slides of this section, and then the slides as a summary. A devotee who works under Krishna's protection, being absorbed in his service, obtains his abode. One must learn to act only to satisfy the spiritual master and Krishna by following their instructions with dependence on Krishna. Krishna accepts his devotee as his most intimate friend and helps him to overcome all obstacles, so that he has no anxiety. Not accepting Krishna's plans, one will have to accept the plan dictated by the modes of nature. According to how the living entity deserves and desires, the supersoul awards him a body which acts under the control of material nature. Krishna advises Arjuna to surrender so that he may obtain his eternal abode. Although Krishna is a supreme controller, he does not interfere with the minute independence of the living entities. Therefore, giving Arjuna instructions for his benefit, he allows Arjuna to make his decision. The most confidential knowledge is to mold one's life. So one can always think of Krishna at every step. Then one surely will go to Krishna. So all forms of religion, yoga and dharma, are meant to gradually elevate one to his eternal position of devotional service to the Lord. Therefore, surrender to Krishna is the perfection of all kinds of religion and knowledge. Krishna promises to protect such a surrendered soul from all sinful reactions. So that is the summary. Are there any questions on this section?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, in regard to this verse, that we have to perform our duty and not the duty of others. Mm-hmm. Sometimes practically in the spiritual life, it is like that you just have to do something.
Yeah.
So Krishna is basically saying that it's dangerous to perform the duty of others. But in spiritual life, sometimes we have to do apparently not something which is exactly according to our nature. So can you comment on this? To what extent we have to act on the basis of our duty, and to what extent we should be ready to do just whatever needs to be done?
Yeah, is it if the temple president tells you, please help to clean the temple floor, and you say to the temple president, oh no, that's not my duty, I cannot do that. That will not go good. But the point is that generally we should be engaged according to our nature. But there are circumstances that we have a higher duty that may be different from our nature. And that higher duty is direct engagement in devotional service on the order of the spiritual master for spreading the mission of Krishna consciousness. So sometimes we must have this tapasya, and we may not have to act according to our nature, like going on the book marathon, or a marathon to prepare the Ratha Yatra in New York.
Yes.
With now many actual and so on. But we can only do that temporary. That after that we have to go back to mostly what our engagement should mostly be according to our nature. Why? Because if you are not purified, you cannot do the activities which are not exactly according to your nature for very long. Because that's a problem. We have seen that devotees do book distribution for some times and they are good, but finally they go after that back to their activities they did before. But they do it now in a different consciousness because they cannot maintain it because it's not really their nature. Of course, you have devotees who are booksellers, and that's their Vaishya nature. They can do it their whole life. No problem. So that is the point. Sometimes we have to do austerities and deviate temporarily from that for the mission of Prabhupada. And that's very much appreciated by Lord Krishna. Does that help, Tulsipa?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Maharaj. Also, just to clarify something else, because they're like in this, you said 2 times these verses are appearing in Bhagavad Gita. If I'm correct, the word used is paradharma. So that means one should not take higher duties than his duties, or any duty. It doesn't matter if it's higher or lower.
Yeah, that doesn't matter in the mission of Srila Prabhupada. If it's temporary, it's okay.
Okay.
But mostly, yeah, we can be engaged in according to our nature.
Okay.
Of course, cleansing the temple floor is a Brahminical activity of cleanliness. Everyone should do that. Everyone should be clean. That's another thing. Good. It's now nearly 11:15. I'm in Halifax here, but let's take a break of 5 minutes. And 10 to 12, we start with the last section, if that's okay.
Yes, Maharaj.
A break of 10 minutes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.